So tell me if you have noticed this too, or it's just me, okay? The other day I'm thinking, have we stalled out, like, culturally, right? Because it seems like since the 21st century hit, there's been no new, you know, style. There's no new fashion. It just, we got to the 2000s, and that's where it stopped, right? That's 20 years ago. And there's people, including me, that still have stuff from, like, the 2000s that we wear, that we listen to, whatever, that's not like, oh, I'm being, ironic or whatever, retro. It's just, it's still in style, right? But that doesn't happen with anything else. You look at, like, the 80s, it's the 80s, right? And you moved into the 90s, and if you're still wearing parachute pants or something, oh, why are you wearing that stuff from the 80s, right? I mean, I still get grief about, like, listening to 80s music, right? But it's like there's nothing new. It's look at the movies, right? I mean, you look at a movie from like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. They're all products of their time, right? So you can see that movie and be like, oh, this is a 50s movie. This is a 60s movie, right? 70s movies are so very obviously 70s movies, right? I mean, there's a few exceptions that are like great films, like Godfather or Jaws, well, not Jaws. Even Jaws is a great movie, but the fashions, it looks like a 70s movie, right? Just because of the fashions in it, because it took place present day in that era. So Jaws as a film stands up, but it looks like a 70s movie. Even if you want to call it a 70s period piece, it still looks like a 70s movie. I mean, something like Star Wars doesn't look like that because it has its own fashion, and it was a high enough budget and everything that it doesn't look like a 70s sci-fi movie like Zardoz or something. But, anything from that, from whatever era, looks like a product of its time, right? And same thing with the music, right? 60s music sounds like 60s music. 50s music sounds like 50s music. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, it all sounds like that, 70s is all either like early, classic rock, early days of that, or disco or early punk, right? I mean, that's what, or easy listening crap, right? 80s sounds like the 80s, 90s sounds like the 90s, all the, you have like the grunge stuff, everything else. There's no musical movement now, right? I mean, you could time every decade by the music alone. 50s was like the birth of rock and roll. 60s was like psychedelic music, hippie music, the Beatles, that kind of thing. 70s, like I said, disco, hard rock, heavy metal origins, stuff like that, punk. 80s was like synth pop, the whole MTV era, Duran Duran, that kind of thing. 90s, grunge and that sort of stuff. But then, like, it just stopped, right? There's like, I mean, the 90s ended. We didn't stall out the 90s. We stalled out in the 2000s. Now, I know part of it is the fact that there's like 3 people that write all the songs now. So that's why all the songs tend to sound the same, because it's all the same people writing them, right? But it goes into the movies, it goes into the culture, it goes into the fashion. Again, I have stuff from years ago that I'm wearing it, and it doesn't go out of style, right? What happened? I mean, is this the simulation theory? Are we in the Matrix and like the program's not updating anymore? There's no more graphic updates to the Matrix now. We're just this is the most graphics updates it can handle. This is as far as we've come, and the RAM and the OS can't handle anything else than what we've got right now. I mean, obviously we're still getting content updates because hey, wow, COVID, that's a new thing. That was some download content nobody asked for in our simulation. But, at what point did this happen where there's just nothing new culturally? I mean, has anyone else noticed this? Is it just me? I mean, why are we at this point now where there's no new anything? Just everything has just stalled out culturally. And, again, there's new current events, but, the culture itself has just parked. And it's not just America. This is like some rant about, oh, America's so blah, It's everywhere. It's, every country, there's like nothing new that like, there's no like, oh, well, this new thing's coming out of England now, the next British invasion of music or something. It's all the same. Is this me getting old? Is that the thing? Have I turned into South Park, Stan when he turned 10 years old and like everything sounds like crap, and I just whatever I put on I watch, it's all is that what's happened to me? Have I become jaded? Or it can't be me, right? I mean, you've seen this. Tell me you've seen this. Anyway, let me know. I just want to know. I just want to know if I'm not alone in this or not. Give me your thoughts.